Greetings, my dear truth seekers. Information about a promising Russian intercontinental nuclear-powered cruise missile of a global range, 9M730 BUREVESTNIK, also known in the West as SSCX-9 Skyfall, which appeared in March 2018 on the pages of the world's leading news agencies, immediately acquired the status of sensation. And although the first reaction in the West was quite expected, in the form of heart-rending screams of so-called Western experts and numerous negative comments from trolls who don't understand anything about military equipment, people in the Pentagon, accustomed to thinking and analyzing everything, were seriously puzzled by this newest Russian weapon. And when new information about the BUREVESTNIK intercontinental nuclear-powered cruise missile appeared in the public domain in the fall of 2020, professional analysts and serious experts of the North Atlantic Alliance felt helpless confusion, combined with anxious puzzlement, replaced by panic and a permanent headache. But why did Russia create such an intimidating weapon? The fact is that more than 2 decades ago, Washington considered that Russia was no longer equal to the United States, and the White House unilaterally broke off the Treaty on the Limitation of Anti-Ballistic Missile Systems signed in 1972, which guaranteed the parties to destroy the intended targets with a retaliatory strike in the event of a nuclear escalation. It was this case that gave a powerful impetus to the Russian defense industry to take decisive action. Fortunately for Moscow, Russia still had a powerful scientific and industrial base of the Soviet Union, which made it possible to start work on the creation of promising types of weapons. Let me remind you that it was the Soviet Union that created the world's first anti-submarine aircraft based on the An-22, and a strategic bomber based on the Tu-95, which used miniature nuclear-powered engines instead of conventional aircraft engines. However, at that time, a complex of insoluble technological problems did not allow Soviet engineers to create high-quality protection for the crew of aircraft that received a catastrophic dose of radiation from these miniature nuclear-powered engines. As a result, this project was never implemented. And only in the early 2000s, Russia revived this project, deciding to create a nuclear-powered unmanned aerial vehicle, which subsequently transferred into the project of creating a nuclear-powered cruise missile of a global range. A breakthrough in the implementation of this project was outlined in 2011, and after all the well-known events of 2014, work on the creation of a nuclear-powered cruise missile only intensified. It was from this moment that American intelligence began to closely monitor the development of the latest Russian nuclear-powered cruise missile. Only for the period from 2014 to 2017, the Americans recorded more than a dozen flight tests of the latest cruise missile. At the same time, the Western media continued to claim that all these tests were unsuccessful. However, the Pentagon did not escape the fact that in July 2018, a number of Russian scientists were awarded government awards. The fact is that it was these scientists who worked on the creation of a miniature nuclear-powered engine for the cruise missile BUREVESTNIK. The Pentagon's concern was also caused by new images of the BUREVESTNIK cruise missile preparing for launch, taken from an American space tech company, Capella Space, and published in August 2020. Only after that, the Western media stopped short of publicly discussing the latest Russian cruise missile, and the US State Department regularly began to threaten Russia with serious consequences, calling for the abandonment of the BUREVESTNIK, which indicates that the tests of the latest Russian nuclear-powered cruise missile were successful, and Moscow plans to put it into service soon. Even through a fairly powerful veil of secrecy, some information about the features of the Russian promising development, which has become the Pentagon's nightmare, appears in the public domain from time to time. So, at the moment it is reliably known that the weight and size dimensions of the new missile are comparable to those of existing Russian cruise missiles. For example, KH-101. Many of you may be wondering, so, what is the breakthrough? The fact is that Russian engineers managed to place a small-scale, heavy-duty nuclear energy unit in a standard-sized rocket body. The creation of a miniature nuclear-powered engine for a cruise missile is the cherished goal of the engineers of all the leading military powers without exception. However, only Russian engineers managed to realize this idea. The key functionality of the Russian miniature nuclear-powered engine is to ensure that the cruise missile stays in the air for an arbitrarily long time. All this will give Russia an unrivaled advantage over its rivals. First, Russian cruise missiles will have an unlimited flight range, which, in turn, will make them possible to attack a given object unexpectedly, and from any direction.
Secondly, Russian cruise missiles will receive complete invulnerability.
The fact is that the Burevestnik cruise missile can stay in the air for months, and this fact nullifies the attempts of any air defense systems to intercept or destroy that cruise missile. Moreover, even if by some miracle the enemy manages to intercept the Burevestnik cruise missile and destroy it, then it will be tantamount to suicide. The fact is that the destruction of the nuclear-powered cruise missile Burevestnik will provoke an explosion of a nuclear charge of such power that it will cause the failure of all electronic devices within a radius of 400 kilometers. Thus, even an ordinary explosion of the Burevestnik in the air can completely disable not only the entire enemy air defense systems, but also its offensive weapons.